Property owners have requested a 6-foot front yard setback at the property located at 117 West Avenue G. Do we have If you open the packet, you see the staff report, the owner's documents, and the site plans.
Appreciate that.
The owners are requesting the variance be given for a 6-foot front yard setback to set a new mobile home on this lot with the existing mobile home still on the space. They say due to financial reasons they can't move out of that one, live somewhere else while that one's moved out and another one is set up. So as you can see by the drawings, the only way they can put that double wide mobile home on the lot with the existing home there is to get a variance. We'd also need some time of I'm trying to think of the word. We would need something in the variance that stated they could have the 2 structures on the lot for a certain amount of time. So on this is where the owners, what they would do, they, in their letter, in their packet, they stated they had nowhere to be while this is being done. And I had in here that the cost of a mobile home set up in a combined space versus the cost of removing the existing home prior to the setup of the new home, which the owners would know that cost difference. I did a little research and found a few things. Typically, mobile home setups, double wide mobile home setups will cost the owner anywhere from $10,000 to $13,000. That's added into the cost of the mobile home. It's not an additional thing. You can say don't put that on there because you got to pay to have it set up. But the additional cost comes in to where sometimes the mobile home, if it's in a combined space, they will charge you extra to use a certain equipment. It's called a translift, or they'll use other specialty equipment to pick that mobile home up and actually slide it into that space, because the tongue of the trailer will be towards the side that they're pulling in towards the existing. So in order there, most trailer places I talked to said you have to have a 30-foot clearance, or you have to use specialty equipment to get it in that spot. So there are times when this is charged to the owner, this extra cost. There are also times when, if it is included in your setup fee, it's not an additional cost. So again, that will be what the owners have in their contract. I don't know that information. The sale of the existing mobile home prior to the setup of a new mobile home, that savings and not having to use specialty equipment, that could override their cost for living expenses somewhere else. You can get a mobile home set up. I've seen people set up a mobile home in 2 weeks and be in it. It's just a matter of timing and putting everything in place to happen at a certain time. If they sold the existing mobile home, had a 30-day lead time to get out of it, they would have the date set up to where they could have the foundation poured for their new one. Doesn't take a couple of days to do that. 5 days to let the concrete cure. Another 2 days to set up the new mobile home. If you had your electricians and your plumbers scheduled to be there, you wouldn't be but just a few, you would only be 10 to 12 days out of a home. So, you know, that's where I'm coming from on this then I want to know what the owner's time frame is. If we grant this variance, how long are they going to leave that other home there? Vacant homes cause rodents and insects to harm that home and neighboring homes. We've seen it anytime we have vacant homes. We have neighbors calling in about rodent issues. So that's, we just want to make sure that if you do give them this variance, that we have some type of stipulation on the two homes being on a lot, because that's not allowed either. And as our ordinance points out, there's not 40% front yard observed in that area that could give them a different front yard setback. They have the existing mobile home set 5 foot back. That was, I can't find any record of it actually being permitted to be that close to the road. Then the next home is 25 foot. The next home from that is 20. The next home is 20. So there's not a 40% in that area per our code to change their setback. Does everybody understand
You said
that
the
point?
first one was how much?
5 foot. The first mobile home right next door to them is 5 foot. I could find no record of that home being permitted.
So they're gonna set the double wide behind that one? That's 5 foot from the road.
Have you?
They're one, if you look at the site plans, I drew up some site plans to show you what it would be if they got the variance and what it would be if they did not receive a variance and moved the mobile home.
No, back there is my code. Scroll down. Keep going. And this is what they're
Is the mobile home that they're living in now, is it on a permanent foundation, or is it just set up on blocks?
It's set on blocks.
So
They
that-
did state
that-
that they want this new one, due to the type of loan they're getting, that they are putting it on the foundation.
So so we could potentially end up with 2 residences on one property that are in violation in both directions.
Yes. So, that's me not, because, I was trying to work through this with them and get to where they could by the 40% rule, but there's not 40% of those properties that are that have that. James, I touched something.
So if there's 40% of the properties that are in the same condition or in the same.
Our ordinance says that if there is 40% on the structures from intersection to intersection on the same street, if 40% of those homes had a different front yard setback, you can abide by that setback.
So that takes precedent.
That rule doesn't apply because there's not 40% on that block. So then we have our next regulation of 2 main structures on a lot. That's not allowed. We have another code to where city code supervisor can grant them the 30 days to leave the temporary dwelling on there. But the new home has to be set up by all current codes. If they're getting a variance, we can no longer grant them the 30 days. That's where you guys would have to grant it. And you would have to give them a time frame. So these are my options.
Okay.
Anything else from me?
Probably.
Would you like to hear from the owners?
Yes.
Okay. Just introduce yourself.
My name is Robert Montoya. This is my wife Becky, and we're here to try and get a variance granted for the 6 foot a 6 foot front yard variance. That, one of the reasons we're asking for that is because that on that part of the of G, that's actually going to be the side of our house. Now that it's going to be that when we put the new one in, that'll be the side of the house. It won't be the front. And also, we're asking it because of the financial hardship of finding another place of being somewhere. We have a 4-family home, and there's no one that'll rent month to month, and for us to be able to move the home, we don't have anywhere to put it either. I know, like we're gonna try and we're gonna put it on a permanent foundation, so it's not ever gonna get moved. Wherever it gets set is where it's gonna be. You know what I mean? It won't, as far as that goes. Now on the other home, on the existing home, that our current home, we're gonna sell it as ASAP, you know what I mean? We don't want it there either. And, we're gonna try and, I mean, I'm not sure how long it's gonna take us. I'm hoping it won't take us very long. We're not gonna be selling it for a whole lot. It's an older house. And, but I know we have had a few interested people, but we haven't been able to give anybody any kind of definite, answer on when we're actually gonna be able to sell it, because we have to be in the other house before we can do so. And I don't think that it should be raise any effects towards the public health or safety, because we're not going to have that house there for very long. And the existing home, we're going to try and get rid of it as soon as possible, because we don't want it there either. Like I said before, and I know that the house, our new home that we're going to get, it'll raise property values around us. It'll benefit our neighborhood, and we just really like your help in this. All you can help us.
So, what you're proposing is, and I'm gonna beat a dead horse, just so I make sure I got it right. When they set it, according to this plan here, where you're 6 feet from Avenue G, then that house, that's going to be its permanent position, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, I like the other one where because then you come into compliance with everything, the first drawing. And
I don't.
is there any way to move your mobile home that you're in now 10 feet forward? While they...
It'd be 10 feet south.
These are the drawings he's looking at. This is
It'd be 10
without the
feet
Well,
brackets.
10
And
feet
this is
towards
what you're
whatever that is.
South.
Is that F? Yeah, south.
10 feet south.
Should be an alley.
Isn't
Towards
it?
the
Yeah,
alley,
towards
correct.
the alley. You know? Like when they come in to set stuff up, would they be able to jack it up and slide it over and put a temporary exhaust?
Your axles don't run that way.
I wouldn't be able to live in it that way.
No, I
I wish there was. I wish we had the means to do that. But unfortunately, we just don't.
So which is the address? Is it on 2nd Street or G?
Their legal address is on G, because G is the front of the property. By code, G has the front yard setback. Second would only have the 15-foot side yard setback.
So, but you were just saying that
But
the
he
front
has
door
plenty
would
of room
face G?
that direction.
Our front yard will face G, and the crazy thing about that is all of our mail comes to 807 South 2nd. Everything. All utilities.
So,
our
I guess what I'm asking is right now, the mobile home that's being defined, it fits in the space, and the front door looks like it's facing 2nd Street. But you're telling me now that you're going to rotate it 90 degrees so the front door is facing G, is that correct? Am I understanding you correctly?
No, if we do it that way, we thought about that, and if we do it that way, we're out of compliance on 2 sides.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure clarification. I wasn't.
Could they sit it at an angle?
Like the other houses across the street.
Mm-hmm.
We went over that, and we would be not in compliance in 3 sides if we go that route.
There was, yeah, we went over several different
The
things. going
the
into
neighbors
house.
have like, I believe they have 4 lots, but we only have 3, or 2, excuse me.
2 lots, how big are these?
The neighbor has a variance. No, they don't have a variance, but that's where their house is.
I don't think this would want to see people
What's that?
destroying.
No.
God, man, I can barely see it.
You want to see that?
Does your home now still have the axles
No, I
underneath
just
it?
need it to be dark.
Are the wheels still underneath it, the axles?
I don't think so, no. I don't believe so.
So when you do sell it, someone's going to have to be able to bring equipment to tow it off.
Yeah, whoever moves it will have to. It has a tongue,
Mm-hmm.
You know what, I haven't been under it
Mm-hmm.
much, I haven't had.
Well, if it had
problems.
wheels under, it's probably rotted now anyway.
So it may have them, if,
They
I
normally
know there's
take
no
the
tires
wheels
inside.
off.
Yeah, they normally take the.
And I don't know, I'm
And a lot of
asking.
times they take the axles out.
Mm-hmm.
So, is this drawing accurate? Are we really 23 foot from Avenue G's curb?
Yes.
And are we really 35 plus whatever to Second Street curb?
They're actually more than 35 to the curb on
Yeah.
Second, yes.
So there's no,
You don't have a sight distance?
no.
No, there's no site distance. And the easements right there on G are really large.
On G.
That's why there's 23 foot before you ever get to his property line.
Right. And the house next door is 22 feet?
It's 28 feet from the curb,
23
so they're
plus
5 foot into their property line,
23 plus 5.
the house next to him.
So he'd be further, with this, with the variance, he'll still be further away than his neighbor.
5 foot.
And also on this, where they set it in, where they need the 12 feet, where they've got 12 feet of space between my existing home and the new one, they said they were gonna bring it over as far as they possibly can towards the old home. So
So if you took the porch down, it would give them more.
Oh, no, the porch is coming down. The porch is coming down before they even move it in. But once I kick that, once they can come and do this with their equipment, they'll probably be able to shave off even a couple more feet, about a foot to 2 more feet, maybe more. I don't want to say for sure and then be off, but I know for sure a foot to 2 foot more in. So I'm thinking my setback, once it's said and done, will be in the 7 to 8 foot neighborhood.
So how big is your porch?
The porch is 12 by 14, I believe.
So can we not pull it all the way up? Where's your entrance on that mobile home?
It's gonna be on Second Street.
My
The
entrance,
existing one?
Right where that porch is.
Right where that porch is?
Yeah.
Can we not move it into within feet?
Yeah, and put your entrance in the back door. Sorry.
Well, he,
no, the porch is coming completely off.
right, so
We're gonna move
instead
that.
of.
Because of that, you can't scoot the home.
You could move it closer.
If you
to-
cut that in half of the porch, there's your 6
Yeah,
feet.
Whatever they're able, the closest amount that they're able to get to the existing home, they're gonna do. That's what I'm gonna ask them to do. I mean, it might be.
So it'll be closer than this 12 feet.
Yeah.
More than likely, yes.
Once it's all said and done.
This was,
Well, we can set that here. That's the whole thing. You know, we can tell you, okay, you can use the standard mobile home stair access, and which is 4 foot wide. So we could tell you, you have to move it 8 feet.
but I don't know if they can move the trailer. The tongue is longer than 4 feet long.
Oh,
The tongue of the trailer is longer than 4 feet. So that tongue, I mean, I'm thinking I might be able to
Oh yeah, the tongue's
drop
gonna be
that
at this end.
from 12 foot to 6 foot maybe, or 8 foot, but the tongue and all that stuff, before they set it and pull it off, there's, you know what I mean? That's
Well,
what I'm
they're not gonna be able to pull it in anyway. They're gonna have
No,
to use
they're gonna
special
take the
equipment,
tongue off.
Yeah.
so they can cut that tongue before they even get there. I mean, once they get there.
Well, and the next question I have is, can you remove the old trailer without ripping off the side of the new house that you just put in place?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
logistics are pulling away.
Yeah.
They just pull out straight.
There's safety issues with all of it.
It's
It's
gonna
good.
be-
They'll remove the tongues before they put them together. It's double up. They remove the tongues before they put them together.
And the company that you're buying the new mobile home from won't purchase your existing one?
No. They said they could,
You took it
through
probably young.
like Facebook or other means like that, they could help sell it, like put it out there, but they
Do you have it up for sale now?
no, I haven't put a for sale sign on it yet.
But you said you had some interest.
Yeah,
already?
I've had some people, mostly guys from work, but I hadn't been able to tell them, oh, come look at it, or, yeah, I can do something, because I'm not able to get out of it yet, and I don't wanna, well, I'm just, I can't sell it right yet.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions for property owner? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you guys' consideration.
I'm gonna call for a motion, and then we'll go, after the second, we'll go into comments and discussion. So, somebody make a motion one way or the other.
Make a motion for discussion.
Okay.
If you can get it inside 12 feet and make that less than 6 feet, I mean, he's already further away from the street than his neighbor.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to say no when his neighbor's sitting way up there at 5 feet, no? Encroaching on the city's easement.
Well, they're not encroaching, but they're not within the setbacks.
The setbacks.
Yeah.
Well, do we need to have a motion before we talk about it?
In theory, yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to grant variance for front yard setback at 117 West Avenue G.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
So this one is 5 feet, right?
Correct.
And this one,
Brenda, do you have any discussion?
Yes.
Points or any
Variance
questions?
would be 6.
but
And
if,
if he,
but if he brings it,
he said he's going to bring it closer.
hey.
I guess my thing always falls back to, we've got our ordinances, and in situations, especially in new construction, if we don't follow our own ordinances, we just set ourselves up to, everybody gets an exception.
Well, he'd build it according to our ordinance if he could. That's the reason for a variance. When
Oh, I understand
There's something
that,
that
but I mean,
causes-
technically, it's still a doable situation.
how's that?
Just other than, okay, I sympathize with your situation, okay? And I don't mean to sound negative or anything else. Our job isn't to figure out their livelihoods and those kinds of things. We have an obligation to uphold the ordinances that we have. Otherwise, everything's up for exception. And we might as well just disband as a planning and zoning commission and let anybody do whatever they want.
But if
No,
that's
but
the case,
he would
Dave-
build it in compliance if he could.
I understand.
And if that's the case, Dave, we don't need to have any variances at all.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying, right?
Well,
But we do have variance.
well, the intent of a variance, so you understand, and a variance is defined by the state, okay? And which it creates a hardship, creates a condition that is not overcomable. Is the sole reason for the variance is not the desire of the owner, occupant, or applicant for increased financial gain. You can go either way on that one. Variance will not adversely affect public health or safety, substantially permanently interfere with the appropriate or adjacent conforming property in the same district. So we've already discussed the fact that it's not consistent with more than 40% of the adjacent properties as defined in the ordinance. Will not alter the essential character of the zoning district. Physical condition exists adjacent to the subject tract of land which distinguishes it from similarly situated parcels in which it creates exceptional hardship, difficulty, or an inequity that would result from the enforcement of this ordinance. So, with respect to that, there has to be compliance with each of those pieces for the variance, in theory. So, I think that's where Dave's trying to drive his point home. also understand your perspective as well. So, Ms. Price, do you have any comments?
I'm good.
Mr. Humphrey?
No, I don't have any comment.
Anything else?
Good. I mean, he's further away than his
Neighbor.
his nearest neighbor. It's not gonna look bad, it's not gonna, I mean, I understand if everybody was at that setback, you know, his nearest neighbor isn't, he'll be further away, and he's gonna be even further away once they move it in.
Any other comments from staff? Legal?
I think the opening statement is that variance request must comply with the requirements. That's up to you guys to decide whether it does or not. Are you asking me my opinion on whether it does or not?
Yes, sir.
It does not comply.
Thank you. The current motion on the table is to approve the variances submitted, basically. One of the requests from staff is if it is approved, that we provide a timeline in which the older mobile home has to be taken away. And the other piece is that they asked is that we talk about potential of moving that further to gain maximum distance away from the property line. So I would request, and you do not have to do this, I just request that you amend your motion, Betty, you amend your second to meet staff request.
What
With the
is
assumption
that
that-
timeline?
We can give it whatever timeline we want.
What's your motion?
Really,
And I
30
would
days.
also ask that you consider whether or not you want to place a requirement that once the new facility is set and the certificate of occupancy is approved, that the other house cannot be used as storage and or
Right.
living.
Yeah, no, that other house needs to go. Because that would be out of compliance having two.
Yeah,
Right, that's.
and that's
right.
where I
Yeah,
said,
I don't want
since
that.
since the new home's getting a variance, we, the code enforcement supervisor and myself, cannot give them the 30 days to keep the second dwelling. If they could move another dwelling on there, with it being in all setbacks, regulations, it not being, it's all compliant, we would be able to give them 30 days, but since this is a variance issue, we can't give them the 30 days.
So the
That
standard,
would have to be something you guys would give them.
so the standard would be 30 days.
30 days. To get in and out
Can you guys get out of the other one?
in 30 days?
Oh, yeah. As soon as they tell us we can be in it, within a week, we should be in it.
But is
How
the
about-
question, is the
about getting
question,
the other
or
one
will they
moved
be
out?
able to
Yes, yes.
not just move out, but sell that?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm gonna put, it'll have a for sale sign on it by the end of today, by the time I get home.
so understand that we're we're not a nominated board by the city, so we are appointed. So this is not the final decision. So whatever that game is, if that's your final answer, this is not the final answer. It still has to go in front of the commission at the next commission meeting,
Yes, sir.
whichever way this goes. So, I think your question, Brenda, was 30 days, and I believe the 30 days is the removal of the old facility.
Best case scenario, he's saying they get the new dwelling and this is
Yeah.
out of there.
Yeah.
Worst case is it takes longer than 30 days and then what happens?
Yeah.
They would either have to come back and reapply, or ask for a continuance, or the variance would no longer be applicable, and they would have to move both facilities.
both facilities. I mean,
Who's
that's
gonna-
what they just said.
In other words, if you make a variance, let's go with the assumption that the approval motion continues and the timeline of 30 days is put on it. And the request is added that, it be moved as far south as it can. All of those things are done. At the end of the day, he comes in, or they come in and they set that. And then they don't meet an aspect of that variance, and the variance is no longer out. Variance is no longer been complied with, and so they're out of code. They're against the variance now. And the legal would get involved in whether or not both would end up getting moved or not. In other words, the old one still gets moved, and this one now has to go back into actual compliance. Legal would have to give you that one. And that just goes between a whole bunch of judges.
That's kind of my question, who's gonna enforce it?
Code enforcement's gonna go out, write the ticket, they're gonna end up going in front of a judge, and then people start spending money they didn't want. People start spending money they didn't have to begin with.
Yeah.
Is that a pretty fair assessment?
Yep.
So. You can retract the old motion and create a new one, or we can let this motion die.
Well, we need to give them a timeline. And like you said, we don't want them using the other house as storage, or, the other house has to go. We can't keep two houses on the same property.
So,
We're looking at, it's gonna be 2 weeks before it goes back in front of the commissioners, right?
226.
you want to retract your old motion?
I will retract my
Okay.
motion. I'll make a motion to approve the variance at 117 Avenue G with the deadline of 30 days after the CO's been issued, the certificate of occupancy, to be out of the home. And what's our timeline on getting the other home? It's hard to sell a house.
So the standard ordinance would be 30 days from certificate of occupancy to have the old facility off the property.
Off the property, out and off the property.
Since you're making a motion for a variance, you can
Right.
set that for whatever you want, and that can be debated.
Okay. I'll make the motion to approve the variance at 117 Avenue G with a deadline of 30 days to be, upon issuance of the certificate of occupancy, to be out of the home and off the property.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Did you want,
Setback distance?
I'm sorry, did you want to include that thing about not using the other home as storage or?
It has to be
It's
rental?
got 30 days. It'll
Has
be
to
out
be
of the
removed.
property.
I didn't know if that was needed to
Right,
be
it'll
included
be
because
off
that
the
was in
It
the
did say it
conversations.
has to be removed.
I was just asking,
Yeah.
clarification.
So I have a motion and a second that does not discuss gaining additional setback. Did you want to address that in your motion?
He's going to gain whatever he can of the south
All right.
on his own. We're approving 6 feet,
Okay.
It's only for his own good to get more than that.
So we have a motion and a second. Any additional comments? Is everybody good with the motion as written? Okay. Any comments? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no.
No.
No. Motion does not carry. With that, the next step of this goes to the commission. So on whatever the commission date on this is, I'll give myself or James, Crystal will give a presentation to the commission on the action item, and the commission will vote on it as well. Okay? And those are the people at the end of the day that make the final decisions. I think there are some ways that you guys could approach this just a little bit differently. We would probably gain the approval from this commission board.
Did you vote?
Well, I made the motion.
So we can continue to work with staff. Crystal, I will help you with that if you want. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda. Non-action items, discussion of variance criteria.
Actually, the only, at the last P&Z meeting, we had a discussion revolving around the variance criteria. Crystal provided the information in regards to how other communities do it, so we didn't know if there was any changes. I know staff are satisfied with the variance criteria that we've been using for the past 4 years, but if there was any additional changes or comment.
Yeah, I never got any feedback from what, after I had the last meeting, I had the information out of what other counties do, other cities do, what our criteria is. Nobody gave me any feedback on what they wanted to see changed, so that's where I brought this paper forward to say what exactly are you wanting to change. Most time variance through the state, it is issued for a topographical issue with the property. The one property we had, it was a triangle-shaped piece of property. He wanted to put a mobile home, but he didn't have front yard and side setbacks because it's a triangle. So, you know, that's a topographical issue with a property. That's reason to grant a variance. Because there's no way you can, you know, figure which is front, which is back on a triangle-shaped property.
I do have comments for that.
Okay.
I don't know where I saved them at, but I will send them to you.
Okay.
I apologize. I have another meeting I have to attend. Thank you.
Betty, you're taking over?
Yeah, I'll take over.
So, I guess with that being said, I mean, one way to look at it is if everybody is happy with that, or if they want to send Crystal and other comments on whether or not we just continue using these same criteria, which are very similar to what other communities utilize. We can actually bring this back again for other discussion, or just move forward and never bring it back up again.
Can we see what other communities, are they identical to these, or?
They're not identical. I had that PowerPoint the last meeting we had on that.
We'll email the PowerPoint over.
All right. No.
Oh, you go.
Because
Most
there's
of them-
only a
most
couple of them that,
focus on it being a topographical error, something that makes property unusable without the variance,
no,
or hardship.
I just don't like number 4. For some reason, me and it don't get along.
Well, if you're only asking for a variance, because there's no other issue with your property besides you just want to save, you just want to make it to where you can save money, I guess, is how that's, you know, it's not the sole reason. If the only reason you're getting a variance is because of money, it should not be a variance. The financial gain or hardship should not be the sole reason for the variance. That's basically what number 4 says. It's not saying we don't want you to have financial gain. We want the whole
Because
city to have financial
say-
gain.
Say that I own this property and to sell it, I've got to get a variance because the house is set back wrong, like over on Oak. All those houses got variances because they were set wrong. That's a financial gain because I got to get a variance to be able to sell it. Because it's not up to code.
Mhm.
So see, that's a financial gain. and you
Yeah,
don't want,
but could you financially move it?
to blow that sucker apart, but.
See, then that would be where it would be a hardship, so it wouldn't be the sole purpose is financial gain.
But I'd like to look at sons from other
Okay.
communities in our vicinity before we say yay or nay on all of them, and see, compare
Okay.
competitiveness. Any more questions?
And I mean, most of those are online, other cities, you can Google
Yeah,
another city
I
and pull up
looked
their.
at a couple of them, but they didn't regard this way. Theirs is more complicated. Las Cruces is.
Well, it was issued in June, June 9th, 2014 was when the city commission passed these variance
Yeah.
requirements. So it wasn't that long ago. The city commission said, yeah, this is what we want people to
June of
have to do.
14?
June 9th, 2014, yes. And they said it was to go into effect on June 16th of 2014. So it wasn't that long ago that the commission went through this and approved these variances and had meetings prior to that with the, it was with Meredith, wasn't it?
No,
No.
No,
pre-Meredith.
before Meredith. But I know it was brought to them and it was approved by them that this is what the standard they wanted to see for people to be able to get variances. And that wasn't that long ago. So. Anything else?
Anything else, anybody? Brenda? Dave? Joe? On? Okay. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I second.
And we're done. Thank you all for coming. Let's log out of this.
Only thing you need to do to log out is go down to the bottom right-hand corner on that little icon that may look like a person or an empty photo. Click on that and click log out, and it'll log out of your account.